Good afternoon. My name is Anne-Marie Schmidt, and I am the editor-in-chief of the American Heart Association's journal, Arteriosclerosis, Thrombosis, and Vascular Biology. We're here today because our editor team last year in 2024 experienced the unanticipated loss of one of our dear senior editors, Dr. David Dichek. Through the generosity of the American Heart Association, they enabled us to enact a new award to remember David every year, and it is the Mid-Career Investigator Award in David Dichek's honor. With me today are Dr. Helen Dichek. Dr. Dichek is David's wife, and she will speak about her life with David. Dr. Mark Majesky, a very longtime dear colleague of Dr. Dichek from the University of Washington. And finally, but not last, Dr. Hung Liu, and Dr. Hung Liu is the first recipient of the David A. Dichek Mid-Career Investigator Award. So first, I would like to turn to Dr. Helen Dichek to tell us a bit about David and their life together, and most importantly for us to convey to you, Helen, our gratitude for sharing David with our field, with our journal, with the community for so many dedicated years. Dr. Dichek.
Thank you so much, Anne-Marie. I really appreciate your care and the devotion to the journal that David had is a lot through the rigor with which you keep the journal. So my life with David was completely wonderful. It was an adventure when we met unexpectedly on a long train ride. We then never thought we would see each other again, but David he remembered me and he sent me a scarf to say how much he appreciated me. And then he told me he wanted to go visit me in Sweden. So a year later, he came with his bicycle, and he bicycled through about 1/3 of Sweden until he was rained out. And he then took the train to see me. After that, there I could see his tenacity going through this cold and rainy weather to complete something that he had set his mind to. After that, we were married a few years later. He started medical school. And throughout his medical school, he worked really hard. And then he also took under his wing some undergraduate students and tried to help them in their career and develop their careers. That was an early sign of his lifelong devotion to mentorship of anybody, especially those that were still in the learning phase or early career phase. With respect to living with him, he was a dear companion, a great listener, and a very hard worker. So he usually stayed up until 2 o'clock or so, and every night, and worked on either his studies or his book reviews or journal reviews or his grants. He rarely took vacations, and that's what my son usually says, that we never went to this place or that place. But when my son was old enough to go on a bicycle ride, they went to France for long bicycle rides in France. And again, that was total vacation for David. And then he came home and spent a whole year again just staying up late and working hard. And so he was happy. What what is remarkable and what made me just love him dearly is that he had such a command of literature, and he always had a poem or a citation of some work that would fit into the situation at hand. Also, he would recite poems in French that were, we sometimes got very tired of hearing it. But now I find myself actually saying, or saying them aloud myself. So his devotion to and the care about everybody trying to do their best was not only scientists, but also our son. He was very demanding about that, but it has given good results.
That's for
and
sure.
Now I want to just make sure everyone knows that he has no tolerance for second-rate work, and everyone has to do their best, whether it is for a school paper, or it is for a scientific presentation, making sure that you have everything validated and well documented and well presented. One last thing I want to say is that he had a fantastic command of the English language, which helped him when he did his work. I appreciate the opportunity to honor him in this way. He was a wonderful, wonderful man, and he had a very good life, but it was too short.
Thank you so much, Helen. That was so beautiful. And so many of the things that you say about your life with him, we certainly can really align with, even in our work with him. His demand for rigor, but his compassion, his humility, and his kindness are probably his greatest gifts to all of us. So thank you. I'd like to ask Dr. Mark Majesky, colleague of David from UW, about your remembrance of David and experiences. Thank you very much, Mark, for being here.
I was trained at the University of Washington and then moved away. In 1990, I had a position at Baylor College of Medicine, and then 2003, I moved to North Carolina, Chapel Hill. And then in 2010, I had the opportunity to come back to Seattle. What I did not know, I was being recruited by two different organizations at the same time. One was UW and the other was Seattle Children's Research Institute. Well, what I didn't know was that David is actually behind this recruitment to UW cardiology. I found that out later. It's a tremendous compliment, and I am honored, by his faith in me to step out like that. I didn't take that job, but nevertheless, it formed a part of our relationship. I would say, however, that to expand on what Helen just said, in my preparation for the remarks I gave today regarding David and our journal and our society, I was constantly impressed by the students, not the mentor saying I did all this, but the students who were saying, we really appreciated the time and effort that he took. And he's a PI and I'm a PI, and there are a lot of demands on your time. And sometimes the undergrads or the staff people that you have in the lab, they get the short end of the stick, that you don't find the time. That was not the case for David and I. We worked on a couple papers together, and I saw in action how every person who was on the team to do the research, you know, he worked with them. They, regardless, postdoc to student, undergraduate student on the project, they all knew what their job was on the project, what assays they were responsible for, how they were going to make their measurements, and once made, how they were going to analyze these measurements. And you say, well, of course, I mean, these are the elements that are required to do a scientific study and put a paper together. I've not seen PIs put that kind of effort into everyone on the team. This is before the first experiment is ever done. And I think the discipline that shows, I learned a lot watching him do that. And the discipline it shows and the focus that it shows is characteristic of David as a scientist as we all know him. And as I trace the work back to French Anderson at the NIH, I can see that you really can't envision a program of gene therapy unless you really know all the little details. And you want to improve a gene transfer vector, for example, there's a lot of details that have to be considered and modified and accounted for. And so I can see the trace of how this happened. But nevertheless, the final product was very impressive.
Thank you so much, Mark. And lastly, Dr. Hung Liu, we are so proud that the applicants for the Mid-Career Investigator Award, when Hung's application came through, and just reading not only the breadth of her scientific work, but it's so important to stress, as we did when we introduced Hung, her tremendous, service to the American Heart Association at so many levels.
That's right.
And then critically, in her essay that she wrote, she talked about mentorship. And what was so amazing, obviously this is a mid-career investigator, the number of individuals and their span from undergraduates all the way to the postdocs and the early career faculty. So much of this truly, Hung, is reminiscent of David and his contributions. And we really would like you to offer what you would like to say as well about that inspiration of David Dichek for you.
Well, thank you, Anne-Marie. Well, thank you for your kind words about this. I'm deeply honored to receive this prestigious award. I'm very happy. I actually first learned about Dr. Dichek from his publication in 2006. Since then, I have followed his research work for a long time. I also communicated with him a lot. I think as you all already mentioned about him, and his unwavering commitment to scientific rigor has been so impressive. And his dedication to mentoring early and mid-career investigators, his service to our scientific community and the journal, and they all actually deeply influenced my own research path a lot. I really appreciate. I feel so proud to be part of this and to receive this award. And thank you very much, Anne-Marie and Mark and Helen. So happy to have you here today with us.
Thank you so much, Hung, and again, congratulations. And we look forward to everything that you will do in the future. And finally, on behalf of all of us, and on behalf of our research community, thank you to the American Heart Association for the opportunity to create this award as a means to always remember David. It's not a minor point that all of us in science would say. There are so many challenges. It is very, very challenging day to day. And it's really important that we remember and are grateful for really the leaders in our field that serve as role models for us to do better, be better, and bring better health to the field and to the world. So thank you to the American Heart Association, and thank you to Helen for sharing David with all of us for so many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.